A lot of people are scared of the TOEFL interview questions because they struggle to deliver a coherent and fluent response within 45 seconds. This is a very common issue, and today I'm going to share a 4-step practice protocol that helps you stop freezing. If you practice using this method consistently for a week, you should see significant results. First of all, you have to have some materials. You have to have a question list, you have to have a reusable reason list, and a template, which I'm going to show you a little bit later. Okay? And secondly, you will practice only part of your answer, let's say the first 2 to 4 sentences. And then only after your ideas can flow relatively easily, you will start using speech-to-text software to monitor the number of sentences that you use and at which sentences do you freeze or start making a lot of grammatical mistakes. So on the upper part of the screen, there's a small template that I love using every time. It's called statement, reason, example, especially a before and after example. Okay, and then on the left-hand side, there are 10 questions. And on the right-hand side, there are 3 repeatable reasons. So I would actually only answer the first 2 sentences when I just start to practice. Okay. So this is what I would do. Let's read the first question together. Describe a regular activity you or someone you know does. For example, painting, hiking, listening to music. Why? Okay. I want you to think about your reasons and then choose a matching activity. Don't decide on which activity you do first. Okay. We need to use the reasons to drive the whole answer. Okay. So let's say if you want to interact with a lot of people, building some great friendships, what activity would you do regularly? But it may be something different for you. It doesn't really matter. All we want to do is to find something that's most intuitive for you. So my first 2 sentences will go like this. I go hiking regularly because when I go hiking, I can build a lot of great friendships. And then what about feeling less stressed? If you want to feel less stressed, which activity would you do regularly? Probably listening to the music. Okay? So you will say something like, the first 2 sentences, I listen to the music regularly because whenever I do that, I will feel less stress. If you're taking the new TOEFL 2026 and want extra practice, timing, and scoring guides and updates as we collect more real results, there's a link below this video. Fill out the short form and I'll send them to you. Okay, so now we see 10 new questions. And if after practice you have become very familiar with the first 2 sentences and then you can practice the first 2 sentences of your example. It would be something like, okay, let's use question 11 as an example. For example, I remember when I started to work in my first company, remote working was not possible. Whenever I felt stuck in my day-to-day job, I felt very stressed and I just couldn't de-stress. So that's like the first 2 or 3 sentences. Don't overthink about your grammatical mistakes or anything like that. Just aim for maximum fluency. When you're fluent, then you can start tuning the grammar mistakes. There are some additional buffer strategies that can help you maintain the flow. First of all, when you get stuck, you should use some light repetition. Okay, repeat a little bit is not a sin. Okay. For example, in the past, I usually exercise alone. If you can't come up with anything to say yet, repeat it. So when I do that by myself, when I exercise by myself, sort of repeating that sentence. If you can, swap a word, swap 2 words, but don't worry about swapping too much. You have to look at the entire answer process. Okay. Or you can add something like something about your emotions, your willingness to do that task. Okay. I feel very lonely. I didn't feel good about it. Sometimes I didn't want to do that. Okay. I didn't want to go to the gym. I didn't want to exercise at all. Okay. And then I would also recommend that you use repeating sentence structures. Okay. For example, if you come up with this sentence. When I'm at the gym, I usually talk with a lot of people, and you don't know what you're going to say next. You can reuse the word talk. All right. Actually, we often talk about how to stay fit. Okay. And then we can reuse the word talk. Okay. We also talk about how to eat well. Sometimes we even talk about our families and our jobs. After you have step 1, 2, 3 under control most of the time, you want to turn the question list into audio only version, because in the real test, you're not going to see any question prompts. It's just you listening to a question and answer immediately, right? You have to get used to that. So you can use ttsmaker.com or other services to turn the text into MP3 and just listen to it and answer whenever you have time. Say when you're waiting for the bus or when you're having a lunch break. Okay, so see you in the next video.